Our candidates are all awful. Their platforms are murkier than my swamp.
Happy election season, fairy tale things. Well, this is it. The choice is here. A smelly green ogre or a royal pain in the ass. The choice could not be more obvious.
Melting ice caps, catastrophic drought, monsoons, dragon extinction. There's only one candidate who's green enough to make a difference. Shrek.
Wait, you don't know what we're talking about? The election of Far, Far Away? Come on, it's the most important election of our lifetimes, people. We have Donkey here with the electoral map, who will give us some projections. Take it away, Donkey.
I predict the next president will be Waffles.
Donkey, you're fired. Okay, but for those that don't know, today we're going to be talking about the Far, Far Away election. I assure you what we're talking about today was very real, and was a real thing that happened in 2016. Truly a time for politics, but also a time for Shrek. Actually, it was a pretty bad time for Shrek. There were no movies, there was no content, but out of nowhere, DreamWorks decided that they would give us the greatest marketing campaign of all time, the Shrek presidency.
Great thing about democracy is that any citizen can run for president, even an ogre.
For 1 year, 4 characters in the Shrek universe would run against each other as political candidates. There were mean tweets. There were campaign ads.
Your life, your struggles, and your beliefs. You need a candidate who is just like you. Just like you, Prince Charming comes from a humble family where he learned the importance of hard work.
There were even campaign incidents, kidnappings, and more. It was the wildest election we've ever had.
Vote Prince Charming for president because he's just like you.
Join me today as we take a look at the one time we had a true Shrek-lection.
Work, honesty, and magical fairy dust. Pinocchio. He's a real boy with real solutions.
To understand this truly, we have to go back to the beginning. February of 2016. There was a YouTube show called Swamp Talk, where Shrek and Donkey would give humorous and witty banter on various subjects of the Shrek universe, sometimes even mirroring topics that happened in our own universe. And on the fateful day of February 17th, they decided to talk politics.
Presidential race looks like a real nail-biter.
It was an election year in Far, Far Away, and Pinocchio, Fairy Godmother, and Prince Charming were the leading candidates. Shrek was not having this.
Far Away needs a leader with substance, Donkey. A good president supports programs that work.
He believed all 3 candidates to be typical establishment politicians and wanted a true man of the people.
I'm leaning to the left. I'm leaning to the right. Who's pulling my strings? I don't know. And neither do we.
It was at that point that Shrek realized he would run for president.
For once in your life, Donkey, you're right. Oh, maybe I should run?
Shrek positioned himself as a middle-of-the-road, grassroots movement for the common man who stood in the middle on issues such as immigration, healthcare, well-paying jobs, and climate change. Truly, Shrek was a man for the people. Shrek would quickly take the lead, as his no-nonsense rhetoric would sweep across Far, Far Away. Even Pinocchio, who attempted to brand himself as an honest and truthful politician, oh boy, could not match Shrek's lovable personality. Charming would quickly paint himself as a brash candidate. He initially led the campaign with the slogan, "I'm with hair." This is going to be quite the video. But would later reposition himself under the idea that he was simply smarter to lead the country than the average voter.
Like you. Only way, way better.
Fairy Godmother also ran a similar campaign, saying that she was the vote for the 1%. Some of Fairy Godmother's tweets are absolutely insane. I don't even know if I can read these without getting the YouTube censors after me, but you can guess what the King's Kite Club is supposed to be a reference to. DreamWorks, what the actual fuck? And it's kind of interesting that she even ran against Charming, her own son. Maybe she was just vying for a cabinet position with Charming. Anyways, Charming would have some pretty mean tweets directed at Shrek. He went after Fiona. This magic beans comment is crazy. And then he said he was gonna milk board the gingerbread man. Gingy was rightfully upset and began protesting at pro-Charming rallies. One of these rallies would go south, and Gingy would lose his leg in the violence. Charming, fearing a PR disaster, decided to patch things up,
although making it clear he would not cover any medical fees,
and invite him down for a discussion. Gingy would quickly endorse Charming and become a key ally in the Charming campaign. By mid-March, Godmother was already running into trouble. Her own fairies had formed a third-party mutiny against her, and Shrek himself would run into a lot of drama when Donkey would become a bit of a nuisance on the campaign trail. Now, Donkey was Shrek's campaign manager and future First Lady.
And Donkey for First Lady!
On March 29th, he bit a reporter. Just a few days later, during a group hug between the Shrek friends, Donkey kicked Dragon. On May 6th, Donkey accidentally burned Shrek's scrolls, which the feds needed, I would assume for tax information. They didn't really make that clear. By the end of May, the Godmother campaign would begin to go down in flames when Fairy Godmother said she would not participate in any debates and said that she would, quote, waterboard Shrek. Another controversial waterboarding comment. What is it with these politicians and waterboarding? Godmother also proposed a controversial onion ban. However, nothing would overshadow what would happen on June 10th, when Donkey would go missing.
My campaign manager and friend, Donkey, has been missing since Tuesday. I am convinced this is foul play from another candidate in a disgusting attempt to destroy my campaign. I urge anyone with information to come forward so we can find Donkey safely and seek justice.
It was the event of the campaign, and quickly, all of the candidates began pointing fingers at each other at who was responsible for the disappearance of such a key figure to the Shrek campaign. Godmother would even exploit this tragedy, seemingly implying that she would seek a ban on interspecies relationships, criticizing Donkey and Dragon's marriage. However, by June 21st, the culprit became pretty clear when Pinocchio mysteriously lost his nose in what he claimed was a freak accident. However, many knew what was really going on here and speculated that Pinocchio was responsible for the disappearance of Donkey. On June 26, Shrek attended Politicon donkeyless. And yes, this really happened. So for those that don't know, Politicon is like Comic-Con for politics. And in 2016, it was held in Pasadena, California, and all of the major candidates were there, including Shrek. Shrek had a booth, complete with campaign posters, and even handed out free buttons. I don't really know why Shrek would decorate his booth with posters of the opposition, but maybe he just wanted an even playing field. I am making it one of my life goals to have a Shrek for President button. I have to have one of these buttons. I had no clue this happened. This is hysterical, and I would do crazy things to have one of these buttons. Anyways, only a few days after Politicon ended, Donkey was found in, get this, Geppetto's toy shop. Pinocchio the next day was indicted by the feds, and one day after that, dropped out of the race. At this point, we only had 3 candidates, and it was pretty clear that Shrek and Charming were the 2 leading candidates. Godmother barely broke 20% in the polls, which she continued to deny. It also came out around this time that Godmother had been desperately seeking a Pinocchio endorsement, which looked pretty bad after Pinocchio's criminal actions, and so, by the end of July, she had dropped out of the race, formally suspending her campaign. On July 28th, Charming announced his VP pick. No shocker here, it was Gingerbread Man. Although once a critic, he had become a staunch ally of the Charming campaign. Charming said that he picked Gingy because he was a man of honor, character, and cinnamon. And just one day later, Shrek would announce Donkey as his running mate. Although initially a thorn in Shrek's side, Donkey's kidnapping would change public perception and garner a bit of a sympathy vote. This just in, we have an election update and alert. It seems that Shrek has won San Ricardo, home of the famous Puss in Boots. That's 6 electoral votes for the Shrek campaign. Oh, and at this time, we can also call Worcestershire Academy will be giving its 4 electoral votes to the Charming campaign. That's Shrek with 6 electoral votes to Charming with 4. We'll keep you updated as we get more election updates. Back to how the campaigns went, Charming made clear he had a hardline stance on immigration and would not let anyone into Far, Far Away. This was viewed as a very controversial take. Even Fairy Godmother pivoted on immigration. However, she claimed it was not a pivot, but that her carriage takes wide turns. Despite the pivot, she did not endorse Shrek, who had a more pro-immigration platform. Shrek took the opportunity to tout his pro-immigration stance, saying that anyone that Charming deported, he would bring back in the country via Onion carriage ride. Shrek also promised significant healthcare reform. By mid-August, Charming's controversial statements had caught up with him, and his main campaign manager quit. Charming had quite the campaign. Earlier, it was said that he had 5 different affairs going on behind the scenes, and Charming clarified that this was false. He actually had 9 affairs happening behind the scenes. However, Charming was in some ways a political progressive, promising that if elected, he would appoint an all-female cabinet. Wink. Being reported that one of Charming's butlers was planning to assassinate Shrek. However, Charming denied this. However, by early October, Charming had made his stance on Shrek pretty clear, saying that he wanted to lock Shrek up. By mid-October, Shrek led Charming by 20 points. And surprisingly, the ghost of Lord Farquaad would endorse Shrek over Charming. It was a surprise. However, Shrek made clear that even though he had Farquaad's endorsement, there was no place in his cabinet for ghosts. On October 31st, Shrek posted an ad for the DreamWorks show Dino Trucks. I had to point this out because I think one of the interns made a mistake. None of the candidates ever broke character at any point except for this one ad. Either that, or the Dino Trucks lobby was deep in Shrek's pockets. Oh, this just in. With another election alert, we can now call Duloc, with its 1 electoral vote, will be going to Shrek. No surprise here. We're calling this just as the polls close because Lord Farquaad, his ghost, is the only resident, and he had endorsed Shrek. So this is not surprising. That leaves Shrek with 7 electoral votes to Prince Charming with 4. We'll keep you updated with the latest election updates. But moving on the day before the election, Shrek has led Charming 61 to 39%. So it's pretty obvious who is leading the election. Wait, we have another election call. Far, Far Away, the interior with the castle and the city itself will be giving its 15 electoral votes to Shrek. And that's the election, folks. Pretty much nobody else lives anywhere else in the Shrek world. So at that point, we can call the election for Shrek. Truly an amazing moment as an ogre is elected president, promising social change that will benefit everyone regardless of political leanings. An amazing moment for this country, truly. But in all seriousness, this marketing campaign was brilliant. Straight up until the end, I love Fairy Godmother's final tweet here. You know, who needs politics when you got magic? I love that all 4 campaigns were perfectly in character. The ads, the posters, the memes, everything about it was hilarious and hysterical. It only could have happened at this time when social media marketing was new and fresh, and a lot of companies and brands were really thinking outside the box on how they could reach the kids, as they say. That was a look back at the Shrek election, or the Shrek-lection, as I call it, the greatest election we have ever or will ever have in the history of the world. Remember, regardless of our differences in politics, to love one another and have a happily ever after.